The living room smells like old dust and cold coffee. Not diesel, not cordite, not the sandbox. Still, my chest tightens the same way it did overseas. Same pressure, different silence. The boots are off now, lined up by the door like they're waiting for orders that never come. Coming home was supposed to feel lighter. It doesn't. The weight didn't stay behind with the deployment dates and the flight manifests. It followed me in, quietly. They don't tell you this part. They don't tell you that the loudest moment of your life might be sitting on a couch at 2 a.m., staring at a wall, hearing nothing, and feeling everything. That's the 1,000-yard stare. Not because you're seeing the war, but because you're trying not to. Out there, duty gave structure to the fear. Brotherhood gave meaning to the sacrifice. Every move mattered. Every silence had purpose. Back home, the silence has no mission, no perimeter, no end time. People think the war ends when the deployment does. For a lot of us, it doesn't. It just changes shape. And sometimes it takes 10 years and a single hug for the body to remember it's allowed to stand down. Brotherhood isn't born when rounds start flying. That's what movies get wrong. It starts earlier, in the quiet hours when nobody's watching and nobody's pretending to be brave. It's leaning against a Humvee at 0-dark-30, sharing a cigarette that tastes like dust and regret, watching the sun crawl up like it's not sure it wants to be there either. No talking, just nods. You don't need words when everyone's tired the same way. It's the sleepless nights inside the wire, gear still on, boots never fully unlaced. Someone cracks a dark joke, the kind you'd never repeat back home, not because it's funny, but because laughter keeps the edges from cutting too deep. You laugh low, quiet, so nobody breaks. Brotherhood is noticing someone's hands shaking and handing them water without saying a thing. It's knowing who needs space and who needs company, and getting it right without asking. Out there, you learn to read people the way civilians read clocks. And sometimes, it's carrying more than your own gear. You shoulder an extra pack. You take point when it's not your turn. You stay awake so someone else can sleep. No speeches, no recognition. Just duty passed hand to hand. That's how it works. Brotherhood isn't loud. It's trust so deep it never needs to announce itself. It's the quiet certainty that if things go bad, you won't be alone. You don't shut emotions down because you're trying to be tough. That's another thing people get wrong. You shut them down because the job demands it, and the job doesn't care how you feel. Out there, efficiency keeps you breathing. Emotions add weight. Hesitation costs seconds. Seconds get people killed, so you learn to move clean. Think narrow, react fast. You stop asking how something makes you feel and start asking what it requires. It's not dramatic. It's gradual. You feel something hit your chest. Fear, anger, grief, and you tuck it away like extra gear you don't need on patrol. Later, you tell yourself, after this mission, after this rotation, after we get home. Silence becomes part of the loadout. You speak when necessary. You joke when needed. You don't linger on faces. You don't sit with loss. There's always another briefing, another watch, another day to get through, and it works. Out there. The problem is, the body remembers what the mind learned. Coming home doesn't flip a switch. You're sitting at a bar, glass sweating in your hand, and someone asks a simple question, how you're doing. And there's nothing there. Just a pause. Just static. You locked it away too well. The parts that felt deeply didn't come back on schedule. Survival taught you how to endure, but nobody taught you how to unlock the door afterward. The plane touches down harder than you expect. A jolt that runs up through the seat and into your spine. People clap. Someone cheers. You don't. Your hands stay still, resting on your knees, like they're waiting for instructions that never come. The uniform comes off a few days later. Folded. Put away. Everyone says how good it is to have you back. They say it like the job's done, like you crossed a finish line and broke the tape. But the truth is, your mind never boarded that flight home. It's still deployed, still scanning, still listening, still braced for something that doesn't belong here. Home feels wrong at first. Too quiet, too open. The walls don't offer cover. The nights stretch on without purpose. You catch yourself sitting with your back to a wall in restaurants watching reflections instead of faces. Not fear, habit. People ask questions. How was it? Are you okay? Did you see anything bad? They don't really want the answers. You can tell by how fast they look away, so you give them the short version. I'm good. Glad to be home. It keeps things easy. But inside, Nothing feels finished. Coming home isn't an ending. It's a new kind of watch. One nobody trained you for. The war ends on paper. Orders expire. Dates pass. But the silence doesn't follow the same rules. It settles in slow. Like dust you stop noticing until it's everywhere. You wake up, go to work, pay bills, shake hands. From the outside, it looks like life resumed. From the inside, something stays paused. You stop looking in mirrors. Not out of vanity, but because reflections ask questions you don't want to answer. You can see what's still there. You can also see what didn't make it back. That's harder to explain. Conversations become narrow hallways, safe topics only. Weather, work, sports, anything that doesn't wander too close to who you used to be. You learn how to redirect with a smile. You learn how to disappear in plain sight. And the people who knew you before, they're the hardest. They remember your laugh, your restlessness, the way you filled a room. You avoid them not because you don't care, but because they might notice the quiet. They might ask where it went. So silence becomes your language. Reliable, controlled, low risk. Years stack up that way. One quiet choice at a time. 10 years of unspoken words, stored neatly behind the ribs. Not forgotten, just contained. Because once you've learned that silence can keep you alive, it's hard to believe speaking won't cost you something. You don't announce it. You don't ask. You just listen. A certain tone in a voice across a room. Flat, steady, measured. A pause before answering a simple question. The way someone scans exits without meaning to. You notice those things because you learned that language somewhere else. Brotherhood doesn't disappear after the battlefield. It just goes quiet. It slips underground. You might be sitting at a bar, neon buzzing, ice clinking in a glass, and you'll catch a look from someone 2 stools down. No stories exchanged. No units named. Just a nod that says, I know. And that's enough. You don't talk about what happened. Not because it's secret, but because it doesn't translate. Words flatten things. They miss the weight. So instead, you share space. Silence. A drink. The kind of quiet that doesn't demand anything. Sometimes it's a ride home offered without explanation. Sometimes it's a hand on a shoulder when the room gets too loud. Nobody asks why. Nobody needs to. Brotherhood after the war isn't about reliving it. It's about surviving the days that come after. You might not even know each other's last names, doesn't matter. What matters is that for a moment, you're not alone inside your own head. The war may be over, but that understanding, it stays on watch. It wasn't planned. No build-up. No warning. Just 2 men standing too close in a place that didn't matter anymore. A parking lot. A hallway. Somewhere ordinary. That's usually where the heavy things happen. He looked thinner than I remembered. Older. Same eyes, though. The kind that don't rush anything. We didn't talk. Didn't ask how long it had been. Didn't say the names. He stepped in first. Arms around my shoulders like it was muscle memory, not a decision. For half a second my body locked up. The way it learned to do overseas. Then something gave. 10 years of held breath slipped out without permission. The weight came back all at once. Not the fear, not the noise, the responsibility, the nights, the faces you carry quietly, so nobody else has to. My hands tightened before my mind caught up. The body remembered the rules before the war rewrote them. No tears, no words, just standing there longer than normal people would. Longer than comfortable. The kind of hug that doesn't try to fix anything, just holds the damage steady. When we stepped back, nothing was solved, but something was unlocked. The silence didn't own the room anymore. For the first time in a long while, it felt like I had permission to breathe. Out there, your body learns faster than your thoughts. Before the mind catches up, the shoulders tighten. The jaw sets. Breathing goes shallow. Trauma doesn't wait for permission. It lives in muscle and bone. Words come later. Words are clean, organized. They stay in the head. But a hug doesn't ask for explanation. It doesn't care how good you are at holding it together. It goes straight to the nervous system, straight to the place that learned how to survive without speaking. Soldiers are trained to endure quietly. Pain is acknowledged, not discussed. Fear is noted, then shelved. You learn to take hits, physical and otherwise, without flinching. That discipline keeps you alive. And it follows you home. That's why safe contact can feel unfamiliar, almost dangerous. The body doesn't know what to do with it at first. There's a moment of resistance, then release. Not because you chose it, but because something deep recognizes it. A hug says, "You don't have to scan right now." It says, "Someone else has the perimeter." In that space, the breath slows. The shoulders drop. The noise fades. No stories shared. No memories pulled apart. Just the truth of being held without expectation. Sometimes that's all it takes to reopen what survival forced shut. Not to fix it, just to remind the body it doesn't have to stand alone anymore. Healing doesn't arrive with a clean edge. There's no moment where you can say it's done. No line you cross and leave the rest behind. That hug didn't fix me. It didn't quiet the nights or straighten out the memories that still wake up before I do. The past didn't loosen its grip. It just shifted its weight. Anyone who tells you healing feels like relief hasn't been paying attention. What it did was smaller and heavier. It proved I could still connect without armor. That the parts of me I sealed off for survival weren't gone for good. Just dormant. Waiting. That matters more than people realize. War teaches you to measure victories differently. Not by what you destroy, but by what you manage to carry and still move forward. After the war, the metrics change again. Getting out of bed, sitting in a crowded room, letting someone stand close without needing an exit plan. That hug didn't give me back who I was. That version stayed overseas, but it showed me I wasn't finished becoming something else. Someone who could still feel weight without collapsing under it. Someone who could share space without retreating inward. Healing isn't resolution. It's permission. Permission to keep going. Permission to stay connected. And sometimes, that's the first real victory you earn after the uniform comes off. War takes more than people count. Not just time, not just blood, not just the years you don't get back. It takes language. You come home and realize the words you used before don't fit anymore. Fine. Okay. Normal. They feel thin, inadequate. You know what you mean, but you can't translate it without losing something important. So you stop trying. It takes emotional fluency. You knew how to read a room once. How to name what you felt. War replaces that with threat assessment and distance. Useful skills, but expensive ones. They work anywhere, even when they're no longer needed. You don't notice it happening. One day you're just quieter, shorter, more contained. Not broken. Just compressed. Everything pushed inward to keep moving forward. And sometimes war doesn't give much back. No explanations, no closure, no neat handoff to civilian life. Sometimes it gives back only one thing. The chance to be understood without having to explain yourself. A look, a pause, a hug from someone who already knows what the weight feels like. That hug wasn't an ending. It didn't close the chapter. It was permission. Permission to speak slowly. Permission to choose words again. Permission to let the silence loosen its grip. War takes a lot, but if you're lucky, it leaves you just enough room to start finding your voice again. Some battles don't end when the uniform comes off. They just get quieter, harder to explain, easier to carry alone. If you're listening to this and something in it feels familiar, understand this much. The weight you carry isn't weakness. It's proof you endured something most people will never fully understand. The silence you live with isn't failure. It's survival that lasted longer than the war. And you're not alone in this battle. Not now. Not ever. There are others who know the sound of that quiet. Others who learned to lock parts of themselves away just to make it through another day. Brotherhood doesn't always look like a formation anymore. Sometimes it's just knowing someone else is standing watch too. Honor doesn't fade with time. Sacrifice doesn't expire. And healing doesn't have to be loud to be real. If you respect the men and women who carried that weight, if you respect the battles fought long after coming home, type "thank you" or "respect" in the comments. Not for the algorithm, for the acknowledgement. And if you choose to subscribe, do it to honor the next story, another voice, another silence worth listening to. Stand steady, stay connected, and remember, some victories aren't measured in noise but in the courage to keep going.